We have the rise of the Enlightenment period. This was the time of thinking and reason and logic and knowledge. So we start moving away from religion and more towards like more religious, not religious, scientific reason and thought. And this is very important for us because it's going to be important later on. We move away from religion and we move towards knowledge and all that stuff. We undermine authority. The Enlightenment period undermined authority. Hint, hint. This is important because no longer do we have these big lords wanting to like control us. We're now becoming independent thinkers. One of the most famous Enlightenment thinkers of the time was an English philosopher called John Locke. So John Locke was one of the most important philosophers of the time. He believed in life, liberty, and property. That sounds a little bit familiar. Keep that in mind. Enlightenment thinker John Locke. And last slide, education. So in Maryland, the law required that every town to have a public school in 1647. So every education was a big thing in the colonies, and this is going to play a big role because the population is not just like dumb; they're educated. Hence, them wanting to know how things are up. Them understanding that later on that the English are taking advantage of them. So they read the Bible. They have high literacy rates among whites. One of the most famous schools back in the day was Harvard, and it was a preacher school. It's very important. Not everybody had a right to education. Of course, if you were a white male, you were educated. But if you were a woman or a slave, that's not going to happen. In most or all instances, slaves were prohibited from reading for obvious reasons. We don't want them smart. We don't want them educated because if they're smart, they start getting these ideas. They start revolting. We don't want that. They're not human. They don't deserve any of that. So slaves are not allowed to have an education. Most slaves did not know how to read. They were illiterate. Then we have the spread of science, inoculation of smallpox. We have the inoculation of smallpox. So thanks to the Enlightenment period, thanks to science and technology and new thinking, we have finally vaccine. Inoculation means a vaccine. So those vaccines that you get as babies, this started to become a thing during this time. We have the concept of law and politics. John Peter Zenger, he was a newspaper reporter. He went to trial because he was criticizing the English crown. So he was saying, why are we paying dues to this crown? They're 3,000 miles away. We should be independent. They don't do anything for us. They just take from us. So he started talking basically smack about the king. And that was against the law back then. So what happened is that he was captured. Let's see if I have a, yeah. So he criticized the government, the British government, and he went to trial and he went to jail for a bit. But the important thing is, the key thing is that he was found that what he was doing was legal because it was true. So in the colonies, they said, yeah, you're talking smack about our mother country, but we're allowed it because it's true. So this is the start of us kind of rebelling against England, against the British crown. The colonist government enjoyed self-government. So yes, we belong to the English crown, but we pretty much run ourselves. We were super independent. We have the House of Burgesses that started in 1619. We have our own governments. We have town halls. We're pretty independent. We have self-government. The colonist legislatures were very powerful. They had a lot of say. So if you're a white male that voted in these legislatures, you had a lot of power. Mostly everybody. And very, very, very important, that's going to be a problem for the British later on, and a good thing for us, is salutary neglect. What I mean by salutary neglect, it was one of your vocab words. It means that colonists were left alone as long as they were profitable. They were like those parents that like, as long as you're not causing me problems, you could do whatever you want. So back in the day, we still belonged to the British crown. We would be able to do whatever we want, trade with whoever we want, when navigation acts, like in some cases it was restricted, but pretty much we could do whatever we want. We could have our own governments, we could have our own laws, we could run ourselves, we could trade, like we could do whatever we want as long as we kept sending money to the mother country, as long as we kept sending money to England. This is called salutary neglect. You do your own thing as long as you don't cause any problems and keep giving me money, like you could keep doing your own thing. And this is going to change and give us confidence to pretty much run ourselves later on. We're going to talk about this in future chapters. This is Harvard, one of the schools. Remember, school was a big thing, and it was a church for preachers where white males would be educated in these towns.